Welcome back to another episode of Business is Pleasure. So me and Colin are like in this like funny, almost feel like disrespected mode right now.
I'm not actually crying, my eyes are just watering.
No, it's actually funny though because like we had posted a picture and everything, and then this guy comments on our picture, laugh out loud, y'all super trash. And like honestly, we always try to take the high road, so we're just like, oh thanks, you know what I mean? Then he does it again, still taking the high road. Then he just did it again. So like this is just like throwing us off. We're like, yo, like why do people waste time? But before we get into that, welcome back to another episode of Business is Pleasure. My name is John L. Francis. I am the co-owner of Clarendon Co. I am here with my business partner / wifey for lifey, Colette Monique Liebert, and together we are the owners of the Clarendon Trading Company, which source, distribute, market vintage, contemporary, and used clothing globally. This is your first time on Business with Pleasure. Thank you so much for checking us out. This is where we, talk about our business, talk about our relationship, and just allow ourselves to really understand, and you guys to understand what's going on within our lives as a whole. Hopefully, we can give you guys some valuable information, or we can be somewhat entertaining. But to go back to this guy now that's like virtually harassing us, like we were actually speaking about this a little bit before, and you were just like, why would someone go about trying to hurt someone else?
I think like people who, I don't know, go online and they're like maliciously just trying to like make someone look bad for like literally no reason at all. They're just they're really bored. Like they need like some kind of hobby at least. And then two, I feel like there's obviously something that they're not happy with, and they're just kind of like lashing out in like a negative way, because like your average everyday person isn't gonna be like, let me comment on like small business posts like just for fun to like try to like make them look bad, or I don't know what he's doing, but
yeah, for sure, because like this person themselves looks like they're a vintage place as well. So I don't know, and I think what it is sometimes is that like some hurt people. Or like maybe he himself is maybe like intimidated by us, so he wants to maybe like try and diminish us or whatever, but it's like it's not gonna really do anything for us.
And also too, a lot of times when like we're working with like, I don't know, different people, I find that a lot of people that are in this like, not as much like the vintage side, but like at least like reselling in general, a lot of the times they're really like young people.
Yeah.
And not to say that like all young people are immature, because like obviously there are a lot of young people.
I'm 29. I could be very immature, but I think there is a line of immaturity than being disrespectful.
Yeah,
like,
but like at the end of the day, like he's a stranger.
Yeah.
Just wasting his own time. So.
No, 100%, and I think like we always talk about that. It's like there are going to be a lot of times where there are people when it comes to business that are going to try and be malicious, try and hurt you for simply no reason. And I think when it comes to situations like that, the best route to take is the high road. Because for you to do that, you're essentially saying like, hey, like I'm not going to allow you to affect my business and also me. Because imagine we were to hold on to this for like a couple of days, that's going to kill us and it's going to eat us inside, right? Yeah. And we're not getting anything out of it, But I think it does make good content. That's why it's good to like bring it up, address it.
I honestly just think it's funny. Like one time someone did that to me on a Facebook Market. Like I posted something and they were like, oh yeah, super interested. And I was like, okay, like when do you want to meet up? And they were like, ha, just kidding. Like I wouldn't buy this if you paid me. And I was like, okay, like you just wasted your time for no reason. Like don't you have anything better to do? Like
it's crazy.
I was like, okay, like have a good day.
But honestly, it's good for us though, because what it does, because like him commenting on us, it helps with algorithms.
Yeah.
And also it's like it's an extra view for us, right?
Yeah.
So it definitely does help, and I do really appreciate that. But the best way we usually start the show, and usually not on a negative note like we did today.
So it wasn't negative. It was just funny.
Yeah. So how was your week?
My week was pretty good. We kind of did our like, what's it called? Our like not goals. I don't want to say goals, but our like benchmarks that we want to hit for like 2019 for Clarendon Co. So we kind of like fleshed that out and figured out like our timelines for everything.
And it was actually surprising too, because like for me, sometimes I dread doing things. I'm like, oh, it's gonna take forever. I don't want to do it. Oh my gosh, like like hardcore procrastination. But when we actually got to it, we did it on Monday. We're okay. We did about an hour and a half. Then on Tuesday we did another hour. So it was like less than 3 hours. We just got everything out the way. You know what I mean?
Also too, like something I just realized, like procrastination is kind of like that feeling that you have when like you don't want to work out. And you're like, I really don't want to work out. And then like as soon as you start working out, you're like, 10, 15, 20 minutes in, you're like, oh, okay,
It's
this
not that bad.
wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
And then you feel good at the end of it that you
Yeah.
actually did work out,
Yeah.
even though at the beginning you didn't really want to, but you did. It's the same thing. Like, it feels like, I feel like procrastination, even though like it can be over a long period of time, it's a really like short-term gratification. Because like you're happy in the moment, right? Like you're like, okay, like I can relax and watch Netflix.
Or I can just be lazy, like fuck this shit. I don't
Yeah.
have to do no work.
Yeah, I can be lazy, but then when you don't procrastinate, and in the long run, like you end up appreciating all the stuff that you did so much more. So.
Yeah, and the crazy thing too about procrastination is that, like, let's say you do continue procrastinating and you don't get anything done, you actually end up feeling like shit.
Yeah.
And then like you kind of like almost like start beating yourself up in your head, like, why didn't I do this? Oh, I should have done this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you look back on all the time you wasted and like everything.
Yeah, and also the good thing about us starting that, it like builds momentum for us as well too, right?
Yeah.
So like, okay, well, we got that out the way. That was only 3 hours. Now we only have to do a podcast, which is only 30 minutes. So it's like, oh well, that's nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Goes back to like one of your famous things, which I never understood. You got to eat the biggest frog first. That's the stupidest thing you've ever said. I hate when you say that. You got to eat the biggest frog first. I've
I
never.
do not understand that.
Who eats frogs? That's the thing I don't understand.
That's part of the analogy. So the idea is you have to eat the biggest frog first. So no one wants to eat a frog. Frogs are disgusting. They're slimy. No one wants to eat that. So you're eating the biggest frog. So you're doing the thing that you don't want to do the most first. So that,
you know what? This is your fault because this is the first time you've ever taken
asked.
the time to really explain this to me. You know what I mean?
Asked.
So I'm gonna blame you for that one.
Never
But it actually
asked.
does make sense now. Because who does want to eat a frog? No one.
But that's the point. You do the thing you don't want to do
first. Huh, that's actually a really good one.
You did? So how did you, like, what did you get out of that if you didn't understand that?
I didn't get anything because I'm like, what is she talking about? Like, you know what I mean? Because in school, it's like, oh, well, do the hardest thing first. I'm like, well, why don't you just say that? But like, that doesn't make a lot of sense now, you know what I mean? You know, so I'm a little slow sometimes, but you know, once I get the ball rolling, it's all good, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Okay, so today what I want to talk about is what's your thing and you'll be happy. And I think a lot of the times, especially like when we're in university and college, we're constantly trying to figure out like, what do we want to do for the rest of our lives? You know what I mean? And I think with us, we had like so much issues with this. We bounce different ideas from one another, and also just going through the journey and trying to figure it out, you know? Because like when you think about it from the end of high school, so like 18, 17, up till now, that was a 10-year process for us to get closer to at least what we want to do for the rest of our lives and everything, you know?
Wow, that's a long time.
When you really take it in that way, right?
Yeah.
When you really, really take it in, you know what I mean? So like with yourself, like what, like, I'm sure like you're on that like that route to getting there, being happy with your whole lifestyle and everything.
Honestly, I'm happy right now, but I think one thing I really only realized this in the last like year, I guess I could say, is that like I had to be really honest with myself in terms of like what I actually want. Cause like I feel like when you grow up a certain way, or like you grow up and like you do everything that you're supposed to do, like you go to high school, you get really good grades, you go to university, you get good enough grades.
This is your story, right?
Yeah, this is my story. You know what I mean? You kind of get in this like mill of like, yeah, like you're doing this for a reason. You're doing this to get like a really good job one day, work the 9 to 5, retire at like, I don't know, 65, and like live the rest of your life. And like it wasn't really until like this past year when I was like, I don't think I want that. And before it was always in like the back of my head, like I don't think I want just like that regular 9 to 5 doing the same thing every single day. But I always felt like guilty about it. Like I feel it and I'd be like, no, like you have to like work towards this like specific career, and like you need to be like really steadfast on it. And like if you don't focus on that, like you're ungrateful and like you're unappreciative for like all the things.
So you're more on yourself, like beating yourself up about doing what's best for you, almost.
Yeah, like I was like beating myself up over the fact that I didn't want what I felt that a lot of people want, and I felt like I was being like a princess for that. Like I felt like I didn't really deserve to like desire something other than that.
No, I think it's crazy that you say that, because it's like, I think when it comes to like what you want for your own lifestyle and for yourself, you have to be selfish. Because at the end of the day, it's like you're going to be the person that's going to have to live like this for the rest of your life, you know?
Yeah.
So if you're not going to put yourself in a position to at least attempt to get that lifestyle for yourself,
Yeah.
you're going to be extremely miserable.
Really, really unhappy. And it wasn't until like the last, like, I don't know, maybe like the last half of like last year when I was like, yeah, like I don't want to do the same thing every day. Like I don't want to wake up and like literally do like the same task that I did yesterday and the day before and the day before that. Like I like the fact that my days have variability and they're different, and I have like the power and like autonomy to choose what I'm gonna do each and every day, and like, and it's beneficial to me and my future and my present, you know, current state of mind. And like I don't know, like it just took me a really long time to like accept that.
Yeah, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. But I think as long as you found the answer that you're happy with, that's what's most important, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I remember working at like Wawanisa, and I always knew that I didn't want to be there for a long period of time. But I knew that like I had to more or less like sacrifice my time for economics. And also like for the resources that does come with it as well too, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I always knew that I didn't want to do the whole 9 to 5 corporate life, but I just didn't know like what was next. What should I do next? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because when we started Clarendon Co, it wasn't very successful for like the first 2.5 years. So the idea of transitioning over to Clarendon Co for me was also like an afterthought.
Daunting.
Yeah,
And,
you know
and
what
you
I mean?
couldn't like see the journey because it wasn't very clear.
Yeah, it wasn't very clear, but
Yeah.
that's the thing about business. A lot of times business isn't clear for the first little while, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that was me almost like not being willing to wait. Not being willing to like, hey, like if I want this, I have to work in it. If I
Yeah.
want this, I'm gonna have to like figure it out on the way. And
Yeah.
I'm happy that we stuck to our wits and we figured it out on the way, because like now I feel like I'm getting closer to the lifestyle that I want, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's funny, because a lot of people have this impression that, oh well, when you have a vision, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to work as hard anymore. It's like
feel
we're at
twice
a
as
point
hard.
we're working twice as hard. From the time we wake up to almost the time that we're going to bed, we're working on Clarendon Co, working on FST, you're doing stuff for your school, you know what I mean? It's like we're these independent contractors, but we're constantly working at something, you know? And I think like we like that a bit more because like again it goes back to the personal autonomy that we're able to do for our own lifestyles, you know, like
Yeah.
we're being able to dictate what we want to do, you know?
And that's something that like having that autonomy and control over your life and your lifestyle is something that it can be, I don't know, it's so easy to take away when you're dependent on like one specific job or like one specific source of income. Like I felt it firsthand. Like I was working at like a job that I loved and enjoyed, and I literally got like fired in the span of like an hour.
Yeah.
You know?
Like you were there, they found out your marks, like, yeah, you gotta go.
Yeah.
Yeah, like literally.
You know what I mean? So like it wasn't necessarily an unfortunate situation because it taught me a lot, and it taught me a lot about like myself and the type of life and security that I want, and I know that I need to work towards, or well, I am working towards right now. But yeah, like that to me was like a turning point. I was like, I can't work my ass off to be like, to have somebody else have so much control over my current state and future at any given time. Like it's not worth it to me.
No, 100%. And like the unfortunate aspect, if we look at running and being an entrepreneur, looking at business on the other side, it's really unstable as well. But I would rather be able to dictate that instability rather than someone else do it for me. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when it comes to being an entrepreneur, it's up to you. It's up to you. Like, you know what I mean? If you want to make it work, you're going to make it work. If not, you got to figure it out. You really, really got to figure it out, you know? And I think that it's really important that we always are like one step ahead of everything. We need to look and really analyze every market that we're in so we understand like, hey, like if vintage clothing isn't working right now, we need to pivot this business or our lifestyle is going to have to change drastically. And like, you know, so that's always important. But to even think about the idea of vintage clothing, because like we've talked about it before, where we do believe that markets behaviors do change, and the idea of vintage is more or less a trend in fashion. It's a trend in society. We see it from TV shows, from
Watching
writing,
a TV show right now.
where it's like vintage is like huge, right?
Yeah.
So it's like we always need to follow the money. Like, you know what I mean? Where things are going, what's relevant, what's working for us, where is society pivoting and everything, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I think one way that we've been able to do that was first off, going to really bad shows.
Really, really bad.
Really bad shows, really bad events, figuring out our demographic. And then when we're able to do that, we realize, hey, this is who our companies best cater towards. So now let's really try to scale that and try to like just follow the money and do the stuff that works, you know? So like, do you think there's anything else that we did that when it came to like focusing on doing what works? So we had the events.
We have the events, we have our selling apps, and also I think just like our mindset, like the variability that we always keep in mind, like we don't archetype ourselves to like a vintage company. Not at no point will we ever say like, yeah, we're a vintage company. We only sell vintage clothing. We're in the business of sourcing and distributing, and whether that's vintage clothing, high-end streetwear, off-white, or cotton balls, like we'll get you whatever.
Cotton balls, cotton balls.
Yeah, like we'll get you whatever wherever there's a market for it, we'll get it for you. And like I feel like that's something that is going to be really beneficial for us, like it is right now and going forward in the future, because like it allows us to have so much more variability. And like some people will have like a negative, like will cast a negative light on that, like they'll be like, oh, like you're a sellout, or like you're not real vintage, or you're not real this, you're not real that.
I'm not real vintage. You're actually 100% right.
You're right.
And that's why I love talking to people in the vintage community, because it allows us to get a better understanding of who our clientele is, right?
Yeah.
Because there's some people that I meet and like they're just true historians, like they want to preserve this stuff, and I think that's amazing. But that's not our business.
No.
We were able to find a loophole within the vintage community and see like, hey, like we see what people like, but we did the work. We analyzed the market. We go out and find and source the pieces, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what's important. It's like, hey, like we may not always love the pieces that we sell, but our clientele does.
Yeah.
And that's what's most important, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's one thing we also try to follow is like, let's follow the market. The market's going to dictate what works. The market's going to dictate what's popular. So for us to sit here on our high horse and be like, oh, no, I don't like this, I don't like that. It's ridiculous.
That's how we were at the beginning, to be honest. And that's why our business wasn't successful in the first couple of years.
Because we're focused on what we wanted.
Yeah, we were like, well, I like turtlenecks and Henleys and like...
I love a Henley though. I love a Henley.
And like button down. So everyone must like it. And if you don't like it, then like don't buy from us. But it's like, that's a really, really small market.
Yeah, it's a really, really small market, right? And I think with every business, you kind of have to like take and strip away your ego and realize, okay, like what's best for the community that I want to interact with. Don't get me wrong, there are some people who are able to have a fashion sense that's uniquely theirs, and they can just sell like that.
Yeah.
But I think the position that we were coming in, we were like new to the vintage, new to reselling online, that we were coming from the wrong position. Instead of willing to learn, we were like, yeah, we know everything. This is definitely gonna sell, you know?
Yeah, like we were kind of on a high horse.
No, 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the next things when it comes to like business. It's like you have to find out what is your market, and then what problem are you like really trying to fix or whatever, you know? And I think the most important problem the two problems that we're fixing is that efficiency for people. So instead of you having to go now to Value Village, having to go to a warehouse, we'll find those pieces for you. We'll make it a lot more easier, and also the price points.
And it is a lot easier because like even now, because like vintage is so popular, I feel like back even like 5 years ago, like you could go into Value Village and find tons of stuff. You could go to the black market and find tons of stuff because nobody really was like into vintage. No one was really shopping at like Value Village and thrift stores that predominantly. And it hasn't been until like the last couple of years where like there's been numerous times when I'd go to like the thrift store, the black market, and I literally come out empty-handed because like it's just like the supply is like so dry, and like you literally need to go like consistently first thing in the morning, like when they.
But that's what we'll do for everyone.
Exactly, and like that's the need that we're finding, because like there are people that like your average person doesn't have the time to go to Value Village every single day when they first open to find like an outfit. You know what I mean? So like we kind of do that for you. We curate it, we put it online, easy for you to view, easy for you to purchase, and it's done.
And I think that's good too, because it's like another problem that we're solving is that like the price points. So I was at H&M the other day, right? And I saw a vintage Super Nintendo sweater. I was like, what the heck? Like these are $39 after tax, like $45, $46, right? I was like, that's crazy. And then we actually found a real vintage one, and we're selling them from anywhere from $25 to $30. So it's like, okay, well, it's not brand new, but I believe there's more character into it, and it's also you're getting a better item in terms of quality. Because if you felt H&M quality wasn't the best, you know what I mean?
And if you're on a vintage snob, like,
you know what I mean?
They're gonna be like,
and also the price point is better as well too, right? So sometimes it's like we also have to realize is that like we're not also only competing with like other vintage companies. We're competing with everyone that sells vintage. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and it's important that like that's where we bring values to our customers. You know, they're gonna have the good quality pieces with good price points as well.
Yeah.
Because that's always important in everything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think with like each time that we do an event, we're also solving another problem, because a lot of the people within those communities, they don't have access to like the vintage pieces all the time. So for us to do events now, to go to these different marketplaces, we're hopefully bringing value to them and bringing pieces that people may not always have like a direct access to.
Yeah,
So
no, for sure.
Yeah. So I think that's always really
Especially
good too.
places that are like outside of Toronto that like don't necessarily have like a fairly large like vintage scene. Like I feel like we definitely notice that it is like people are interested in the stuff that we have to offer.
Yeah. And I think that's important too, man, because when we look back and like the old events that we used to do, no one used to be interested in
Not
any of our
one.
products. You know what I
Not
mean?
one. We honestly we've gone to events, didn't even sell one item.
Oh my gosh. Driving an hour and a half.
Packing
picking
up like
oh my
rolling
God.
racks, like all this
Pieces
clothing,
of clothing, like, you know
hangers,
what I mean?
like everything was staying there for 6
Like
hours.
12-hour days, not making $1. Not making $1. And I think that's where it's really important. That's where resilience really comes in hand. Because if you don't see light at the end of the tunnel and you don't see how like, hey, this right here isn't a failure, this is how I know what not to do and I'm market to stay away from. Because for the longest time, like I always had this idea like, yeah, we can go to mom events and we can like moms will buy stuff for their kids, like, you know what I mean?
No.
I really had this misconception, right?
Yeah.
But for us to figure that out, we had to like really fail.
How did you feel like at those events when we
at first, like with me, I always try to be like as optimistic as possible. So
Yeah.
it's always like, okay, well, you know what, we're gonna make it happen, you know? Because I think once you go in with a negative attitude, your day's already ruined. You know what I mean? But after it, I was like a bit beaten up about it. I was like, frig, like, does the clothes that we sell suck? Is it us? Like, you know what I mean? It forced me to like think constantly. You know what I mean? And that's when I realized, hold on, maybe it's not us. Maybe it's them. Maybe it's us picking the wrong people for the business, you know?
at the events,
Right?
yeah.
So that's when we start to realize like, hey, like, you know what, let's try this event, you know? And by us constantly doing that, I stopped feeling as like bad about the things that we're doing. I stopped feeling as like uncertain, you know? But like without that uncertainty, we wouldn't have gotten to this place of like success.
Yeah, you kind of have to go through it to get to like a better place.
Yeah, and I think that's important, right? And I think a lot of the times it's like Rocky, man. Like I hate to use this analogy because everyone does. Like that guy got his ass bust constantly, but he always came back, trained harder, you know, got some new moves, and came out on top, you know.
Yeah.
And I think like if we were to like stick with our method that we originally had, that's when we would have been like, okay, yeah, this is never gonna go anywhere, you know.
And I feel like sometimes failure is like one of the best things that can happen to you because it's a clear indication. Like it's literally like an experiment of like what you've done wrong.
Yeah.
You know, like it's literally like the world telling you, okay, like this is not what you're supposed to be doing. This isn't working. You need to figure something out, change whatever you need to do in order to get back to like a positive place. Because like it's like, I don't know, there's just so much that you can learn from like a negative experience and turn it into something positive.
Yeah, and you have to, right? And I think like some negative experiences that like we go through in terms of our business is like when we're dealing with customers and like we may accidentally post the item as a large, but it's actually a medium, you know what I mean?
Yeah, just like little mistakes that we've made.
Like, you know what I mean? But instead of dwelling on it and being like, well, you know, we gotta make sure this is better, and like, you know, and of course, like not blaming the customer.
Yeah.
Because I think if we don't take responsibility, that's a sign of weakness, and our customers will see that, you know.
Yeah, and like if we don't have customers, we don't have a business. So like we always have to, if there is something that like it's our wrong, our mistake, we have to admit our wrongs and like do whatever it takes to make that customer happy again, whether that be a discount or a refund or whatever the case may be, or a refund, even keeping the product, like whatever it may be to keep them happy. Because at the end of the day, like we are a small business, and like even though sometimes we get this idea that like, yeah, like Toronto's so big, whatever, like people don't interact, people do interact with each other. Like who's to say that that person's not gonna talk to a friend and be like, oh, like I saw that, I bought from them before, don't buy from them because this, then whatever happened.
You know what I mean? Like with me, I think I'm much more comfortable like losing like 10, 20, 30, 40, $50 than losing that lifetime customer. You know what I mean?
Same.
And I think that's extremely important because they say 80% of your sales is going to come from 20% of your market. So that 20% is so crucial. And the only way you're able to keep that 20% is by keeping them happy and doing right by them. You know what I mean?
Building good relationships.
Exactly. And I think that's why we have like a couple people that, let's say they don't buy all the time from us, but they will constantly come back to us because like, one, I think it's those interpersonal relationships that we've been able to build with them by being courteous, by being kind, plus by giving them good quality pieces and everything, you know?
And if you're shopping with us regularly, we're really good at like giving good prices.
Yeah, like oh my gosh, like there's this one guy that we work with, our homie, he's like been with us since day one. Like two of them actually, right? And like we give them the sickest prices, and like it's kind of funny because like we'll post online and we'll be like, yeah, he's gonna buy this today.
Yeah.
Like you know, because like we've almost like
we
more
know
or less
their style
so well, and the only way you do that is by building that relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like they allow us to know that hey, like we should continue purchasing products like this. You know, with our clientele that does support us. That's the people that we need to always stick by and treat them like gold. We need to really, really treat them like gold because without